Let's make a easy red bean dessert with glutinous balls. Now this is equivalent to our rice pudding. It's such a comfort food for me. Let's get making. So this is Đậu Đen, which is a Vietnamese black bean. Now I'm just going to start prepping this the night before, preferably 2 days ahead, but if you were short of time, 5 hours is the minimum. I'm just pre-soaking these so they bloat, and they also get rid of any murk or dirtiness from the bean existing. Just agitate the beans to encourage it once in a while as well. Now, once it sits overnight, it should look like this. Murky, purple, that's what we want. I'm just going to give it a quick rinse and then I'm going to let it dry out a little bit before starting the next process. Now, this bean particularly is not my favourite one. I honestly would advise to use a different one. Specifically, black turtle bean, I think is a much better option. But anyway, the bean that I originally used took 8 hours to cook. Normally, it should take 2. Now, I'm going to basically add 3 times the amount of water. So every 100 grams of bean is 1 litre of water. So I've got 400 here, so I've got 4 litres of water. If you need more, add more, especially if you want it really soft. Get it to a boil and then lower the temperature. Normally with this kind of dessert, there's always like another element to it. So it might be tapioca balls, it might be glutinous rice balls, there might be like some sort of like fruit like long yan or like something like that basically. And a lot of the time, especially with these sort of puddings, is that it is normally contributing to good health or like something that tends to help with your health. So in the ideal world, right, we would add loads of those sort of things. Sometimes you add like red date, apples, you might even add ginger, things like that. So there's a variety out there. A lot of people do a lot of things to it, especially because it's meant to be similar to rice pudding. The texture is also very similar to rice pudding as well. Now, on that note, today we're not going to overcomplicate this because I really want this to be a really easy recipe. So what I've done is, I went to the shops, to the Chinese shop, and I bought this, which is the glutinous ball with sesame filling. It is a classic brand. You get to see, I think you see this all over really the continent. Now, if you can't get yourself one of these, there are so many other brands that do different versions. There are even multicolored one as well. So I feel like the variety is like there's no limit to it. So what I would recommend is if you're short for time and you're just making the bean pudding or the bean stew, then focus on that and then get one of these. Now, if you do have time, and I will show you, but you're basically going to make the base of the glutinous balls. Now today I'm not going to do a filling, but if you do want to do a filling and you want to you want a choice or a variety, typical fillings can be like Lotus Paste, Sesame Paste. Some people do like a peanut, where they crush peanuts, add sugar, add like little different ingredient like spices into it, and you can also roll that into a ball. I'm keeping it super straightforward today. Like I said, it's going to be a really easy recipe, and today we're using literally the rice ball itself. Steady on. Okay, let me show you how to make these before we jump to that point. Now, this is just rice flour. All the measurements and ingredients will be down below, so please check that out. You're just combining rice flour with powdered sugar. Now, these are meant to be slightly sweet because the bean is already sweet, so we don't want to overdo it in terms of sweetness. I'm going to chuck hot water into it, and the hot water essentially breaks down the rice flour protein so that you have just the chewiness, but it doesn't harden. That's why we have hot water. If you're using cold water, you might see a different effect with the balls of glutinous rice. Honestly, I don't think it's a problem as long as you're eating it and you're heating it up. Now give it a quick stir with a spoon, and then you're going to go in with your grandma hands, and it's going to be hot. I warn you now. It's super hot. Also, get rid of your rings. I realized the flour really does cling on to every crevices of your rings. Now, with your hands, what you're going to do is kind of shape the current bowl into a dough ball. And then we're going to let it rest later on for about 5 or 10 minutes, or whenever you're ready to shape them into balls to be cooked in hot water. Now, what I did find here is that the balls are very sticky. If it's a case of adding a little bit more flour, go gently because it can change with about under a teaspoon of flour. As you can see here, it's dried up very quickly, and that's because the hot water's now all absorbed, but also the heat is no longer there to soften the flour. So you do find a little bit of the residue slightly sticky. But what you want is a supple ball like this. It's nice and smooth. And what you want to do is essentially ball them up. You get about 10 to 12 in each dough, and you can essentially fill it if you wanted to, or leave it plain. I'm going to leave it plain today. Now, the other ingredients, like I said earlier, was tapioca balls. They have the same texture, well, similar texture, not the same. But the ideal world is it's something QQ, something chewy, something sort of satisfying to go with this element. Now, if you don't like anything chewy, then this is not going to be for you. So I definitely recommend things like fruit. So like lychee, longan. You can have this on ice as well. So typically in Vietnam, they have like a rainbow color dessert as well. So you can have other ingredients as well. You might want to cut up like pineapple, tropical fruits. Now you can be super boring. I don't think it's boring. Sometimes it's a comfort thing, but you can just chuck in a can of coconut milk into it and brown sugar, which is something that we're going to do today, and just have it straight like that. That is perfectly acceptable. Meanwhile, in the drama world with this bean, now this Vietnamese beans are not notoriously known to be this difficult, but I'm not too sure if it's just the type. This is in around about 6 to 8 hours at this point. I was getting too close to the actual texture I wanted, but everything was playing up. My camera didn't work, so this is the only footage I have of the bean cooking. Adding a block of palm sugar and coconut milk as well. I should also mention that the cooking time normally should be around about 2 to 3 hours. Now test your bean to see if it's the texture that you like. If not, cook a little bit longer. Once you've added your seasoning in, so that's coconut milk, sugar. Now this is 100 grams of palm block sugar. I think it's the best because it's not too sweet, but it also adds that sort of creamy flavor from the coconut milk as well. Now, if you're thinking of adding any other ingredient, brown sugar, cinnamon, anything like that can also be added on here. Now, I would refrain with any strong seasoning just because the bean texture also changes as well. Now, what you could do if you didn't want coconut milk is cream or whole milk. Up to you, actually. Now, moving on to the glutinous balls. Now, these are the ones that we bought from the store. I love these, honestly. They're so fun and they're so easy to get as well. So if you don't have the time to make your own like we did, it's okay. These are such classic homey like things that most traditional household has. Now these boil up around about 10 minutes actually from frozen, so you don't need to rush and you don't need to prepare them. You just need to basically cook them in time of the bean coming out as well. Now depending on what kind of flavors you prefer, this is my favorite one. This is the sesame paste one. I just love how it oozes out. But the process of cooking both the ones I made from home and from the store is exactly the same. 10 minutes and they should float to the surface. Okay, so this is a couple of days later and you can reheat the beans on the stove whenever you like, or you can put it into the microwave, that's up to you. I've just decanted it and given a lot of that away, so 400 grams make it quite a lot actually. But in the ideal world, the preferable texture, it should be bloated, really tender and soft, but with a slight bite. It should remind you of rice pudding, but with a bit of a chew. Okay, so it's the next day. Let's dish up. Let me show you the red bean dessert with glutinous balls. I'm so happy at how this turned out. Honestly, this is such a classic dessert. Now, this is kind of eaten all year round, but I think I prefer it like during winter. It is like the rice pudding. It's like, it's the texture, it's the warmth, it's the creaminess. And then you got obviously like the different textures as well with the fruit. If you add in fruit, you'll have different fruit textures. But the glutinous balls break up the sort of boringness of the bean as well. Now, the ones that we made had no filling, but this one's got sesame, this one has sesame paste in it. You can get the peanut ones as well. This is also good. Of course, I'm gonna leave the ingredients and the measurements down below for you guys to try out. Please let me know if you do try it. If you've gotten this far, please leave a ball comment. Give me any balls down below and let me know if you guys try this and make this. Super easy, super comforting and perfect for this weather, especially as it's February and it feels like a very long winter. this does help. Now this is yours. I've got mine right here. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna love you, leave you.